This meeting is being recorded.
Fantastic. And I'm going to also start with an introduction for our guests for this evening, or our facilitator for this evening. We have Danie Ocean joining us. She'll come back in. Because are recording this so that we can post this on our YouTube for replays for people to revisit this information. And welcome, my name is Jasmine Sipo. I'm the program facilitator for Vision Driven Artists and for Vision Driven Artist Workshop Series. And today we have our facilitator, Danie Ocean, who will be leading us in the conversation about disability justice in the arts. And just to go over Danie's bio, so Danie Ocean, a blind, queer, non-binary singer, songwriter, and arts activist, is changing the face of what, it's changing the face of what musicianship means in America. Whether teamed up with her band, Danie Ocean Band, or working on an independent album, the singer-songwriter is called for greater heights. She's a graduate of University of Penn, and she was born Danielle Jackson. She went to school for psychology and spent the year in the Americorps City. Spent the year in Americorps City Year, which inspired her to do transformational work in the Philadelphia School District. Danie also blends her music therapy in her clinical work with children and families. In 2016, she took a look at her own music career and wanted to take it to the next level. And in 2018, she picked up and is currently on a label called Winding Ways Records. Her latest album, Love Won't Let Me Fail, was produced by Grammy Award winner VDA Davis. And Danie continues to promote her album. And I've also dropped her link in the chat if you want to go check out her music and support Danie on her future endeavors. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce Danie Ocean, who is our facilitator for the evening. Ooh, make her a co-host. How about I do that? Wouldn't that be helpful? All right, Danie, it's on you.
All right. Am I on now? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are on.
All right. So I was just saying, thank you so much, Jasmine, for introducing me and inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. And I wanted to talk about disability justice somewhat from a different point of view. Most people talk about any kind of justice from a macro level into a micro level or internal level. But I'm going to start with the internal level and then outward. So there's a few revisional histories in my bio. I use she, they, or they, she pronouns. And I went to Penn for my master's in social work. And that really, with my City Year, Americorps year, and having the social work background and working in charter schools, it definitely got me acquainted with systems in Philadelphia, especially. And during that time, I knew I wanted to grow my own musical career. And I started a nonprofit called Working While Playing, which it was a nonprofit designed, and this is before the boom of subscription-based stuff, but we had a subscription-based membership for artists to use our loft studio space in Germantown for lots of things that they need. So they'd be able to rent the space. For super cheap. We're talking like packages starting as low as $25 a month, and you would get a certain amount of time, a certain amount of hours that you were allowed to use during the month. And it was, what I will tell you is, it was probably one of the most transformational experiences of my life, supporting all kinds of artists, from photography to musicians, of course. We had dancers, we had performance artists. We had so many artists come through that space, and we were open for 9 years. And then right before the pandemic, we had some money issues, which kind of was a blessing in disguise, given what the next 2 years would hold for us, being a space, a physical space. And we actually grew. We had 2 spaces, one in Germantown and one in West Philly around 47th and Baltimore. So we had been doing pretty well, and then kind of, just like a lot of nonprofits, the money well started to dry up, and we couldn't find enough private funders. But it was a great ride, and it taught me a lot about the music industry in Philadelphia. It taught me about advocating for artists. One of the niche things about the nonprofit was that every single member of ours had to put in 2 hours of community service. So we were constantly connecting with other nonprofits and, and working kind of in a synergy kind of movement to introduce small businesses and nonprofits, community organizations to the arts. And so, now almost 4 or 5 years removed, it's kind of funny because I don't know too many organizations who are doing what we did in that way. There's a couple of for-profit businesses that just do space, but not really, working with artists and creating community. So if there's one thing I can say about myself, it's that I have a really big focus on community. And especially as somebody who's visually impaired, blind, I find that life is easier, arts are more impactful when community is in it. So starting, with taking like an arts justice lens, you have to first start off with yourself, and yourself in terms of where you sit in community. And the only way you do that is you got to figure out what you need. So for me, as a visually impaired person, there's a lot of things that I needed as my vision started to deteriorate. There were small needs, there were social needs, there was political needs, and I'm going to share with you a few of mine, and I'm going to leave open a huge chunk for question and answer, because I think that's going to be one of the best utilized times that I can offer you all. But let's just start off with what you need. As visually impaired people, there often is an internal bias, like internalized ableism, that we may have with ourselves. And so first, you got to tap into you first. Are there ways in which you don't feel worthy? Are there certain ways where you're needing validation that you can't give yourself? What are the things that you need for yourself, your own healing, your own expansion in your art? And that's a hard question, right? But if you start there first and really start with yourself first, then you're able to kind of better utilize some of these resources I'm going to tell you when we start going out on a macro level. All right, so I know for me, I was talking about internalized ableism. I definitely felt for a while, especially when I went on disability, that I was part of the system, I was part of the problem. People are paying tax dollars to basically partially support my living, So, and I went from, having a job where I was making over $100,000 a year doing, directing social work programs in charter schools, and also running my nonprofit to, living underneath the poverty line. So it was a huge socioeconomic drop and shift that I had during the time when I became a full-time musician, but also a working disabled artist. So one of the things for myself that I really had to realize was what does having my basic needs met look like, right? So as things were changing, I knew I had to get disability. So I, filled out the paperwork I needed to do to get disability. And that was one of the first resources. And that was tough, because we have a lot of, there's a lot of judgment in the society about those who are disabled. But we also, don't create opportunities for people with varied disabilities, So like visible or invisible, especially the most invisible ones are the ones that can be the hardest. So I had to really come to grips with, this is where I'm at. It doesn't define my self-worth. It doesn't define who I am. And if anything, it makes me even more connected to community, because I see myself intertwined with them, even more so. So for me, step one was just getting my basic needs met, getting myself stable. I started doing some life coaching, and then I started to do some vocal coaching, and I was able to kind of make ends meet that way. So a lot of my basic needs were being met financially. I was able to kind of resource for myself what I needed. And then the next thing was, okay, so I'm a musician. I also do films, and you're going to see a little clip of mine that I do. I do poetry, I write, pretty much, anything I can dabble in, I'm going to dabble in. I play the guitar, I play piano, I play bass, and I just started playing drums in December. So I heard that there's a drummer in the midst, so we got to wrap after this. But all of those things, I had the time now to really start exploring, and I did in earnest. And so once I, realized I had something going for myself with my music career, I had to get out there, right? And so that was a new set of skills and resources I needed. So I've been very, very blessed and lucky to have met a pretty key advocate for disabled people, especially musicians in Philadelphia. And her name is Vicki Landers, V-I-C-K-I Landers, L-A-N-D-E-R-S. And if you want to write that down, she's a great resource to have. One of the cool things about Vicki is she introduced me to Disability Pride, which has been going on for 10 years in the city of Philadelphia. And just like, Gay Pride, it's the aim is to create pride around, I'm less a fan of the word disability, and I like differently abled, but either way you slice it, differently abled, disabled people of America, it's meant to start to fight that internalized ableism. Because whether you have dyslexia or ADHD or any kind of mental health disability, there are ways in which society isn't set up for you, which can greatly value or devalue, I should say, our own sense of worth, especially in a society which values productivity, to kind of be a cog in the machine of capitalism in that way. So the biggest thing, the next step, once you started to, you got your basic needs met in terms of your art, and you want to go to the next level, you want to have a social ecosystem that's going to support you in what you do. So tapping into, for instance, if you are autistic, tapping into social media streams locally, Disability Pride, Liberty Resources. These are great organizations to have you be around people who are just like you and, may not have your same disability, but are going to be people who support your craft, because that's so important. We're talking about different hurdles when you're a disabled artist. You're talking about literally breaking new ground. I can't begin to tell you how many times my friends who were able-bodied were just able to hop in the car and go off to that gig, or to just be able to do something with so much ease that I had a hard time with. Setting up a PA system, navigating a dark club when you're blind, or a tight club, especially when you play kind of jazzy stuff like I do, tight spaces, and navigating all of that stuff. So I've gotten really, really good in terms of my performance art, in advocating for myself before I get there. Getting to know and getting really friendly with bar, restaurant owners, event planners. I do a really good job of advocating for my needs ahead of time, either with people, and sometimes that's my band when I'm playing with my band, or it's my contact, but making sure that I have a support system when I'm going into an event. So I think, it's taken a lot of resiliency, because I do get a lot, oh, you don't even seem like you're blind, or whatever people think blind looks like. But there's lots of different ways that I think I can go unseen if I'm not wearing my cane. I can make enough eye contact that people, they don't know, and so I'm constantly educating. So I wanted to, and I told you a little bit about me. I want to open this up a little bit to the folks who are here. And if you could just tell me your name, what kind of art, and if it feels safety creating, what disability you have, or if you're an advocate, what you're wanting to get out of this session today. And that way I can curtail the next few pieces toward you and your needs. So, Jasmine, could we just have everybody unmute themselves, and whomever wants to go first can go first. There's no particular order, but it's just in an efforts to make this a little bit meaningful for everybody who's here.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
It's Karen Smith, the drummer.
Woo! Ow, ow.
I forgot that's probably my disability, really, is trying to remember.
So your name, your art, and your disability.
Okay, my name is Karen Smith. My art, I am a drummer, but I'm also a percussionist and a playwright.
Wow.
I mean, besides being a percussionist, I'm a playwright and a poet, and curate a number of projects as well as a teaching artist. I want to learn more, really, as far as being an ally for people with what we call disabilities. So I'm always looking to learn more, and where you know um, understanding sensitivity, etc. When it comes to my performance, putting performances together, the consideration of whatever that possible disability is.
Wow. Well, welcome. I'm so excited you're here, Karen. And we'll touch on that a little bit.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Diane. I am a playwright and a theater artist and a new songwriter and performer. And I have a whole bunch of constellation of chronic illnesses that means that I'm disabled. That has a pretty big impact, especially over the past several years, over my ability to engage fully in performing and doing art. So I'm really hoping to learn from you and what you've been able to do to hopefully find some avenues to re-enter into doing those various arts. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. It's Dia?
Deanne.
Dion. Okay,
Yes.
Dion.
Hello, I am Queen Maya or Sanaya. I own Intertwined Entertainment. I'm the 21st century Renaissance woman. I have Ehlers-Danlos, which is a connective tissue disorder. So I deal with primarily chronic pain and a lot of dislocations and subluxations. So as a vocalist, I do love to dance, but I often keep injuring myself. So I kind of try to chill out. But in my artistry, I've seen how this disease has affected me. I no longer play guitar live any longer because my arm went numb before, and just trying to learn how to accommodate myself to do all the things that I want to do and be able to be the flourishing artist that I am.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being. It's Maya?
Yes.
Thanks so much for being here, Maya.
Hi, everyone. Jasmine, but my artist name is Jabula. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I have ADHD. And I've been navigating with that since I was in teen years. I've done medication, I've done meditation, I've done yoga, all of the above. But I'm finally in a space where I'm able to actually take that energy and use it productively. But I am here to learn more about how I can here to learn more about resources that can help me in those moments where I am overwhelmed and feeling as though I can't manage anything, but also here to be an ally for friends like Maya and other friends that may have disabilities physically, so I can support them and accommodate them. I am looking to curate more spaces where we're making sure things are accessible to any and everyone. So this will help me in education and how I can do that and really reach people that need it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jasmine. All right. Well, I think maybe we'll start. I'm going to show a video in a few minutes. But for my folks here who live with disabilities, I really think a practice is really, really important for creativity. Every day I take a 4 to 5 mile walk, which seems like a lot, and it is. Most days I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do this, but it's so good for me and my body and just getting outside and in nature. And it's also, I can get pretty severe depression and anxiety as a result of losing my sight. And there's a lot of comorbidity with people who have disabilities, and that's one of mine. So the exercise is so good for me. And that's a practice that I keep every day. So I wake up and, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash up, do whatever I have to do. Sometimes I eat breakfast, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just have to get out the house. And then I'll worry about food later. But I keep a mood journal where as soon as I wake up, I write between 1 and 10 how I'm feeling. And then I also keep a food journal where I write down all the things that I've eaten during the day. And then I always end the day with how am I feeling between 1 and 10, and how many steps did I take? And all of this stuff is, I got myself an Apple Watch, well, my family did for Christmas. But the steps were really, really important because I knew in order to be as resilient as I needed to be, being a full-time musician, and having to navigate some of the barriers and the patience that I had to have on a regular basis, there was a certain diet and a certain practice for me that I needed. One of the big things for me was emotional regulation. So the walking and the food journaling and the mood journaling was really, really important for me as a first step. And then when I come home, I like shed on the drums for about an hour, and sometimes two, depending on, how I'm feeling. And that's a form of, body meditation that I started for myself. Another big thing is I meditate nearly every day. Super important for me, and as part of my practice. And during the week, in terms of practicing artistry, I go to an open mic on Tuesday nights, and that's really amazing. And I have a great community there. And on Wednesday nights, I host a BIPOC meditation group virtually on Zoom. There's folks from all over the country who come in for it every Wednesday, well, every other Wednesday in the summer. And on the first of the month, I host a virtual open mic. Now, a lot of that stuff, the reason why I'm telling you all the things that I do is because I can't tell you how much connectedness to community is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to support your career and you as a disabled artist. Because there is so much that we have to do to adapt and to be resilient and figure out what do we need. So all of the spaces that I'm involved in have really helped me, and my daily practices of walking, the mood journaling, the food journaling have been really, really helpful to having, we're going to call it a healthy creative appetite. It puts me in a headspace of being able to navigate some of the hurdles that I have to navigate every day. So we're going to watch a little video. I recently went to Maine in April, and I wanted to journal my experience and kind of just, talk to my fan base a little bit about my deteriorating vision and the things that have been on my mind, and basically how I stay buoyant in such uncertain times. So this is me, and I edited all this stuff myself, and you're going to see just bits and pieces of me. I got together with a few guys who became my band. I'm actually going back in August with these guys. It's kind of cool. We all practice together, and you'll see some clips of that as well. So Jasmine, can you cue that up?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And I think what's really important is, as somebody who's visually impaired, I'm always like, pushing the envelope. What can I do? I can do films too. I can do shorts. Let's do it, So this is one of the videos that I've produced in the past couple months.
All right, I'm gonna hit play. Sorry, here we go.
Just doing a lot of reflecting about my life and being present, I just have so many more moments where I realize there's never going to be another time like this one right here, right now, and taking every moment for the miraculousness that it is. I swear I met a girl like wild horses on sacred earth, a pilgrimage, something I can't see. But that's not saying much. My world keeps trading side for touch, but still there's something only. Say who you are. I'm Jenny. All right. And Jenny, just tell me where you're from. I was born in Aberdeen, Scotland. And I've lived in America for many years. And now I'm from Portland, Maine. I run the Orumbaga Retreat House. Sweet studio space that my buddy Spencer made. Spencer, hi. And yeah, it's amazing in here. And the smell, it's like being in like, is this cedar?
Red pine.
Red pine, oh my gosh.
Built about 30 years ago and stacked and so
Delicious.
Yeah.
What?
Writers, musicians, creative workers of all kinds to come and have
At first I was
for
going to see that, like,
2
you had
days,
the whole studio.
doing their art, doing their work, being creative, exploring their souls and their creative spirits.
Science is able to fix this, and they're, you know, 3/4 of the way there. So I lose my identity as a blind person. But I also have to live my current life, right? I also have to live my current life and say, if I lost my vision, would it be so bad? Blindness is a spectrum. I am blind. And I also am sighted. Both can be true for me. I could never dream of sleep. I could never have the rainbow. All I got to give is me. There's an empty place for that deep within my inner peace. And for all the things that we write, don't be scared, we'll set them free.
Go for it.
Try to feel right now. You try to feel right now. You try to feel right. Is the energy of someone pulling you toward their energy and holding tight to it. It doesn't release itself. It's an experience, it's a journey in and of itself to be kind of tethered to someone's energy, allowing them to go where they need to go, even if that means that you flow with where they go, or don't flow. And I felt so humbled in the thinking of that, you know, like, if we all could aspire to espousing true love as God intended it, romantic or not, I mean, it's literally allowing and accepting people to be themselves for who they are and not letting go of the love. Not saying because you're not like me, or because you don't think like me, or because you don't do these things that please me, you let go of all the things that have anything to do with you, and you just accept them.
Well, it was a struggle of my life to be queer and a Christian at the same time, because, you know, the queer community doesn't always accept, for very good reasons, Christianity, as it's been present, and the church, for sure, a lot of it doesn't accept queerness. And calls it a sin, and wants to reform you and transform you and change you out of who you really are. But I am very, very blessed in that I made my way into the kind of Christianity that does not judge, that offers the love of God to all people wherever they are.
What would you say to trans people coming out and trying to find their way through the world under very unaccepting fates?
Yeah, it's a struggle for sure, but you are a child of God, just as you are, just as you feel yourself at your deepest level to be. I'd love you there. I want to help you flourish and be strong and part of a beautiful, strong social community.
All right. Thank you, Jasmine.
Of course, that was beautiful to watch. I did shed a tear. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm glad it touched you. That's it's the reason why I made it. You know, I'm constantly trying to find ways as an artist to bring people into my world. And my world has so many intersections with my blindness, with my queerness, with my, you know, non-binariness, you know, with my Blackness. There's just so many things that I see the world so differently from others. And because of that, I think I have a valuable insight on life, you know, from my unique perspective. And that's what all artists offer. So, you know, one of the biggest things, you know, if you're coming in contact or if you are an artist with a disability, you really have to start with the self first and value that your voice is actually needed. It's actually needed in the evolution of our communities, of our societies. Your voice literally gives another narrative that without it, we don't grow. That's how important the call of artistry is, or at least that's the call that I take it to be. So, you know, as you know, and I'm sure as you've experienced, not all things are created fairly or equally. So when you come across conflicts or issues around accessibility, maybe you're wanting to get into a festival and there's an application. And you know, you're a person who's visually impaired and, you know, needs extra help, either reading the application or even filling it out sometimes. It depends for me, depending on the application. You know, I always go straight to the coordinator of the event. And this goes into the resources thing. You have to get really creative. Like, listen, you know, I'm a visually impaired artist. I need a little help with, you know, with someone dictating this to me. Is there someone who could, you know? It's one of the first things that I do and I start with, because I like all of my artistic performances, shows, experiences, anywhere where I'm giving some part of myself away to the public. I like for me to feel as comfortable as possible doing that. I used to be one of those people who are like, I don't care, I'll do it anyway. You know, you can't tell me what to do. I'll do that. I'll go to that place. Not so much anymore. You know, I'm very selective about the gigs that I take. You know, I used to take gigs that were far out, but that means that I would have to find somebody who was going to ride with me. And, you know, that became really complicated too. So I take gigs now that are local, and, you know, I really advocate for what I'm worth, which is finally starting to work out to my benefit, you know. And a lot of my success as an artist has come through word of mouth. And I think even better, I'm now known as a visually impaired artist. So when people are trying to intentionally diversify their talent, or looking to have some new fresh faces in a showcase, they're looking for me. I have a brand. And so that video specifically, I have a Patreon account too. And that video went to my Patreon members, and it went to my Instagram followers and my Facebook followers, and Twitter and the like. And the reason why I do that is because I want people to continue to hear my voice as an alternative narrative in their world. If I go away, then they stop thinking, oh, well, how do blind people know the difference between this restroom and that restroom, you know? Or, you know, how do blind people navigate how to get to the stage in this restaurant? They stop thinking about it because they have the luxury to. So another big thing is, as you're thinking about who your community is, and, you know, we all have different intersections in our lives. For the folks who aren't, for folks who are allies, you know, it's important that your friends who are disabled, that their narratives, that their art be expressed in the world. So as an advocate, you can really stand by promoting them on your maybe social media pages, or, you know, local churches, organizations, whatever have you. Doing your best to promote their art is a great way that you can work towards more justice for artists with disabilities. I don't usually do this much talking, so like straight in a row. So let's mix it up, and maybe we can do some Q&A.
Sure. Anyone, please feel free to unmute yourselves and join us in this conversation if you have any questions that you would like to speak with Danie about, or just a topic of discussion that you are curious to learn more about, or kind of open for dialogue.
Do you have any recommendations for people who still are needing, especially during this time with COVID and such, people are still needing to be more heavily quarantining and careful about, you know, going out and about? Do you have any recommendations on how to sort of connect with people and form community as we sort of transition and are a lot more people are doing like in-person things and that sort of thing? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've got a couple of friends who have autoimmune diseases, and that's the reason why I host the virtual open mic that I do once a month, because I was really craving community, and I have a father who I live with, who lives with me, and he has dialysis. He's disabled, so I'm very careful about, you know, who and what I'm exposed to. So creating virtual forums for that, or joining existing ones, because there's so many out there, is a really great way of getting your art out there, and also kind of staying safe, you know. And this is a really good option. I think you said, Dion, that you have some chronic pain stuff too.
Yep.
Yeah, so you never know if you're going to have a good pain day or a bad pain day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what I would say is like, there is a platform out there these days digitally and virtually to get your stuff out there. And you got to work around your schedule. So doing a showcase, you could do it at a local venue, but it might be in your best interest to modify it and say, no, I'm going to do it virtual. Because if it's at the very, worst situation, it's a bad pain day, at least I can just kind of be in front of my computer if that's even if that's possible, right? But you're able to kind of make your community work around your needs. And as somebody who's visually impaired and doesn't drive, it's a big deal if I have to catch an Uber or and it's very expensive. So, anytime I can get folks to come to me in the most easy way for myself and them, people actually appreciate that,
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. But make the ask, Dion. Sometimes we don't ask our community, like make the ask, like, I think I want to do this, would you do it? Would you join? Like really get your community around you, rally them around you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Absolutely. Other questions?
I have a question. As someone that's trying to be more informed ally, for example, my friend Maya, there are times where I want to say, hey, sit down. Hey, take a break. Hey, stop twerking on stage because of your ankle. And I just want to make sure that I don't want to limit her because she knows her own limitations, but I also am like aware of her saying 3 days ago that her arm was hurting, and I'm like, oh, and now we about to do a handstand while we singing. Then you know what I'm saying? So just like as a friend and ally, and as a friend to a Scorpio, if you know what I'm saying.
Ooh.
Yeah, she has the nerve to be a sassy Scorpio too. So I just want to know, just like, what's appropriate. Like I guess I'm also I don't want to limit her, but I also want to like just be that accountability partner for her and her body, and just making sure that I'm supporting her in that space. So any advice on how to be aware?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I have some good advice for that, because I'm a Capricorn and we're just as stubborn. My father's a Scorpio, so I know exactly how that goes. And what I would say is let Maya advocate for Maya. I know you're, looking out for her, but you can give a little hey girl, hey every once in a while. But the biggest thing is, for anybody who's disabled, they have to learn the skill of what their limitations are. And that means making mistakes. And sometimes it doesn't mean making mistakes. Maybe like I was just saying to Dion, maybe it's a good pain day, and you can do more than you originally thought. For me, sometimes when I'm going out, especially in public with one of my friends, and they offer me their arm, sometimes I don't take it. I'll have my cane and I'll feel comfortable enough to be able to navigate the situation without them. And then sometimes, I'm like, can I, use your arm or whatever. So it's, with people with disabilities, it's not always fixed. You can have a good day or a bad day. You can have more energy one day and less energy the next day. You can have an injury from the other day that you're still nursing, or everything can be all good. And the biggest thing is, any of your friends with disabilities have to learn the skill of learning their yeses and learning their nos and really trusting it. And as an advocate, that's the best gift you can give them, because it actually lets them live in their own resiliency, and you don't infantilize anybody that way.
Oh, thank you so much for those words of advice. I also was looking at my, like, do you hear what she's saying? Do you hear what she's saying about what you need to be doing? Oh, okay. But thank you. I do have a mother hen tendency, and I just like to she does it to me too. So
Are you a Leo?
I'm actually a Scorpio as well.
Oh, you're a Scorpio, okay.
Yeah, so we're just Scorpio sisters supporting one another, but I can be mother hen just like her. But thank you for that. I'm going to allow Maya to advocate for herself and be a supportive friend.
Absolutely. And that's, to be honest, sometimes I see my father look at me and he knows some of the challenges, the helplessness, I've been advocating for community, but one of the things as disabled people we have to do is be okay with the helplessness of the others around us. We have to be able to tolerate it, just as much as our allies, our advocates, have to tolerate, the challenges that come with our disability, and it can be a very toxic, codependent relationship if you don't allow both of those things. If you don't allow the tolerating mistakes, tolerating the pain, tolerating helplessness, it can really create tension in your relationships and in your communities. So as you're advocating for yourself, or if you're an advocate, just remember that, there's going to be moments where you feel helpless, as the person with the disability or as the advocate, and you're going to have to learn how to cope and tolerate with that. And you're going to have to find ritual around that. That's one of the things that our society doesn't talk about. That's really, really helpful. And maybe it might sound a little woo-woo, but you invited Danie Ocean, so I'm gonna go there because I'm woo-woo that way. Like, if you need to burn some sage after a really rough day, or you got your crystals, in your pocket for whatever energy you need. It is so important to cleanse energy. Or bringing flowers to a friend when they had a really particular rough week or something like that. And that's something that you do for your friends. Having ritual around pain, discomfort, and celebration around the good stuff, the good days, the days where like, oh, life's not so bad today. All right, right on. Rituals around those things are so important, because then you're going to start to see your progress, and you're also going to notice your impact is so much stronger. And your impact with your art. I don't know how the two are intertwined, but when I am very vulnerable with people, and I tend to lean that way anyways, but especially when I'm really vulnerable and sharing my art, people feel me, on a cellular level. It's like evocative. There's something that makes them want to be around me, which is important to me because I want the message that I need to get out, with all these years that I have, however many I have, get my message out to the world, get my art out into the world. And so it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship if we let it. There's a very strong disabled network on Twitter, and believe it or not, on TikTok. You can find definitely groups and forums and stuff like that on Facebook. So don't get me wrong, it's not that antiquated where you can't, find some good groups on that. But if you're really talking about community, Twitter and TikTok have some of the best organized disabled community conversations. And there's just a lot of beautiful things happening on it. There's a lot of beautiful connections, people sharing resources. It's like a wellspring of amazing stuff and amazing people. And I found a lot of community, and especially with my own visual disability and like my bad days, and I can't believe this, or only a blind person would know how this feels. I find so much validation in those spaces. So I will say social media in this case is a godsend, especially when you have a disability that's, gives you kind of ongoing grief. So I will say that that's a really, really great way to plug in as someone who is an advocate or an ally, and especially as somebody who's disabled. I will say Instagram is still a good forum for sharing your art. So for instance, if you were doing a song Maya and you wanted to, post that out, Instagram is still popping in that way. Lots of people see that stuff. It's a great way to get your stuff out there. And it's also a great way to craft your brand because, like I said, use your own uniqueness. I'm not a big person on the word brand, but it is like a colloquialism that makes sense. I like to think about it as your vibration, right? Like what you're putting out there to the world. So as much as you can be authentic about what makes you you, and all the uniqueness, I hope you're including your disability in that. I hope you're engaging people on what that means for what a day for you looks like, what you struggle with on a regular basis, because all of those things make your point of view unique. And like I said, it adds to the fabric of creativity and artistry that you're putting out there. So do we have some other questions?
Hello, it's Karen Smith again, the drummer.
Okay.
Thank you for so far sharing as much as you did, and the questions that were asked are very effective for me. I'm just curious, did you find yourself to be more creative when things started shifting? I don't like to say pandemic or COVID-19 or whatever, because we're always shifting, and something is kind of tied to it per se to help us understand it. But did you find yourself to be more creative in this last 2 years?
It's funny you say that. Like I felt I was more quantitatively, if we put it in just numbers, I released 4 albums in 2 years, and that's crazy to me. So if you looked at just that, like those numbers, it would look like I was crazy creative, and I was. But a lot of that stuff was me working on things that were from previous years that I kind of like, okay, I had the time now, so let me finish that song, or let me record that, or, I was always thinking about making a meditation CD. Why don't I do that? And I did. But I want to also express emotionally, I did not feel creative at all. A lot of when you're, at least in my experience as a professional creative, I have the practice of being creative more often than I have these moments of brilliance. When I was working like my 40, 60-hour week, I had moments of creativity, and like they were like lightning spurts, like, oh, let me write that down, or da 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 da. But as a professional creative, and because I've changed my landscape and this is what I do now for the majority of my time, I actually have to work on being professionally creative. And so sometimes that means revisiting songs that I, worked or recorded 10 years ago, and just listening back to that and, coming back to it and reworking it. It's nothing new, so to speak, nothing like that I'm putting out at this moment, but I'm revisiting old art because I'm in the practice of reviewing art, if that makes sense.
Okay. When did you start losing your sight?
I was diagnosed at 16, but I will say I've had the most progression of this eye disease over the past 10 years, and I'm 38 now, so maybe around 28. Huge life changes. Like really not doing a lot of nighttime walking or anything like that. Having to use a cane, not being able to see, cars or clouds or colors even. That's all been kind of in the past 10 years, maybe.
Okay. What do you still feel you want to do artistically that you haven't done yet?
To be perfectly honest, I really want to, I have a need in me to work with well-established artists to raise the visibility of disabled artists. I think the industry leans, and it has always leaned towards really young, poppy kind of sensations. And my goal is I really want to work with, well-established artists and bring something new and funky and interesting into mainstream music. So that's my goal. Will I do it in my lifetime? I hope so. I don't know, but I'm always working on it. I think working with Vidal Davis, and I'm like, I was all geeked out about that because, he's done everybody from Jill Scott to Vivian Green to Music, Soul Child, the whole Philly scene. So I was real geeked about that, but I also knew this is just the beginning. I keep telling myself this is just the beginning, and I try to keep my dreams alive that, one day, maybe me and D'Angelo sit down and write a song together, or, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I mean, just people who I respect, that's my goal.
Okay, great goal. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I guess if no one else has one, I'll ask another.
Yeah.
I guess just besides the really great suggestions you've already given around being disabled and creative practice, do you have any suggestions specifically for like people who are just starting out with songwriting and performing as a disabled artist that you'd have?
Yeah. How about this, Deanna? I was going to play you guys an original song of mine, and then maybe I'll speak to the songwriting process right after. Does that work for you?
That sounds absolutely perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So this song is featured in that little video. It's called Love Light. And I wrote this about my ex-wife at the time, and then it became a song. It became way deeper than I ever thought it would be. It was a song about being bold in love, even if you've been hurt, even if you felt vulnerable. Like, how do you still stay supple even when things change, people leave, transition, things transition. So this is called Love Light. I could never lift a mountain. I could never drink the sea. I could never hold a rainbow. All I got to give is me. There's an empty place for hiding deep within my inner peace. And for all the things that frighten, don't be scared, we'll set them free. One glance it looks like, one smell it tastes like, one touch it feels like home. Go and dance in the moonlight. You can fly if it sets you free. Go and play in my love light. I'll be waiting there patiently. So we're young and naive. We will figure out the pace. where we go, no one knows, but I'll never lose my faith. I believe every doubt will be erased. You're a flame, stay alive, and the world will know our names. One glance, it looks like, one smell, it tastes like, one touch, it feels like love. I won't be scared of it all. I don't care if I'm open. So what, we're vulnerable. If we break, we're not broken. Go and dance in the moonlight. You can fly if it sets you free. Go and play in my love life. I've been waiting there patiently. I could never lift a mountain. I could never drink the sea. I could never hold a rainbow. All I got to give is me, is me, is me, Danie, yeah. One glance, it looks like, one smell, it tastes like, one touch, it feels like love. I won't be scared of it all. I don't care if I'm open. So what, we're vulnerable. If we break, we're not broken. Go and dance in the moonlight. You can fly if it sets you free. Go and play in my love life. I'll be waiting there, patiently. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
It's beautiful. Wow. Applause, applause.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
gorgeous.
Thank you. So that song's called Love Light. And you know, I like to think that for me, at least, my process is that the music writes the song. So, you know, whether if it's beats for you or you play an instrument or you've got some kind of, you know, loop or whatever, the music for me writes the song. Like it's like almost like a spiritual experience. Like I ask it, what do you want me to say? You know, what is it saying? And that song was, you know, that was the song that came out with that. And it was, you know, it's just about me being, all I can give is myself, and all you can do is you. So if that means that you've got to go and fly and do your own thing, then that's fine. But I'm going to stay here being myself. And I think sometimes the sentiments, the heart of a song comes out before the words do. So stay tight to the song when it's that way. When you feel the heart has emerged and you're like, there's something here, you definitely want to stay with that song, because usually the song will write itself if you just stay there in that vibration long enough, you know.
That's awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Did you have have you had issues in writing your own songs, or just little anything specific about songwriting that?
No, just sort of wanted to see your perspective on it. Honestly, everyone I think has a different way of going about it, and I was curious how you did, and especially because I feel like I haven't really talked to any other disabled songwriter, any other disabled songwriters. So I was
Yeah,
curious
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, for me, I like to think of myself as a soul singer, so I got to feel it, it's got to be something emotional, something that really is emotional for me, because I think what happens when I perform it, it's like therapy, I can get all the the feels out, if you know what I mean, so
Definitely.
as definitely as somebody who's disabled, I write a lot more songs where I'm like, I got to get this out.
That really resonates with me as well, and is really awesome to hear. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Other questions?
So this is not really a question. In one aspect, it probably is going to be a question to see your availability. And are you in the Northwest area, Germantown Mountain area, Chestnut Hill?
I am actually right outside of the city. I'm in media. So I come into the city a bit, but for the most part, I stay kind of, it's closer to West Philly. I'm about 20 minutes from West Philly.
Because we're doing this monthly event here in Germantown at Maplewood Mall on the
Oh,
last
yeah.
Saturday of each month. And I would love to, if you could be a part of it on our celebration of G-Town Radio.
Oh, G-Town Radio. Yeah, they've interviewed me a few times. Yeah.
In September 24th. And we could,
Okay.
we could work out all the details on it,
Yeah, let me give you my email address. And this is for anybody who, is just wanting to stay in community. Please write this down if you want it. I'm available as a resource. It's DANIE.
Can you put it in the chat or no?
Sure, sometimes it takes me longer to do most things, so give me 1 second.
Or I can write it down too. If it's easier for me to write it down, I can do that too.
I just got it up. I think I got it.
Cool.
Enter. Enter.
All right, so I sent out a couple of things, my email, how you spell my name. So if you're trying to find my music on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you get your music, YouTube, I'm on all of that stuff as Danie, Danie Ocean. And then one of the other resources I wanted you guys to know about, and I think it went on, is Liberty Resources.
Yep, it's there.
Yeah, that's one of the chief disability collectives in the city to help people with disability. When SEPTA is designing their new stuff and they're, looking to have it comply with certain ADA stuff, or just, how to create more access, they talk to folks at Liberty Resources. So it's a great resource, just if you're needing to know what's available to you, in the city, even in regards to potential grants even. So that's a great resource to know of. Other questions, thoughts? I guess it was 2018, I was invited to the governor's mansion for this celebration of, 40 people under 40 people of color in Philadelphia who are doing good things. And my nonprofit was one of the reasons why, I was there. But I also got to perform, which was different than pretty much everybody else that was there. And one of the things I will say is, wherever you go, your disability goes too. I don't mean to link anybody to their specific disability, but owning it in the sense of that experience that you have comes with you too. You bring that in the room. So it was really cool to represent not just a Black person, but a disabled person, in the governor's mansion, that time ago. And I recently in 2020 won the Leeway Transformation Award. And that was another place where I was just like, okay, this, it's clear sometimes your purpose when you stick to your art, your art develops a niche for itself. And so for me, a lot of that has been, how do I use all of my intersections to elevate, to visibilize and empower people as much as I can through the way I empower myself. So I'm wishing all of that for you all. I hope that this is informative. Like I said, if you want any more information, you want to get plugged into the groups, open mics, whatever, I'm more than willing to talk with you about that and get you plugged in, because how we fight this, how we win this is with community. Jasmine, what are you thinking?
So we do go until 8 o'clock, but it also, we don't like to force it to go till 8 o'clock. So if anyone has any remaining Q&As that they would like to, the questions they have for Danie, we can give it about maybe 5 more minutes, and then we can actually end early today, and everyone can continue enjoying their evening. And I'm just gonna look at the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything.
I would definitely recommend there's still so many people who, in the birth of automation, I'll put it this way, in the birth of automation and, making everybody do everything themselves, with checkout lines, automated checkout lines, and, you go to the CVS and you got checkout, automated checkout lines, and just, there's so many things that continue to invisibilize many people, maybe folks with muscular issues or, deaf, hard of hearing. Like, we have to be louder than we've ever been before. And the only way that you're able to be louder without hurting yourself is by those practices that I was mentioning earlier. Find your own routines, your own the things in your life that you can do that are going to keep you strong mentally. Our bodies, are, they're going to be what they're going to be, but if you can have a practice that really gives yourself some kind of consistency, it really does help on the days where, the inconsistencies of life or the ways that we may feel oppressed, or systems that aren't built for us or made for us, we can still breathe through it, if that makes sense. It is not easy to be disabled and an artist. And so that means that you have to be mentally prepared to know that there's going to be people who aren't thinking about you. And so you have to think of yourself even more. So our advocates, if you find an artist who is disabled, letting them know, you know, I'm sure this is a hard walk for you, but I'm a resource should you need one, you know. And that might mean, you know, sometimes it's as simple as asking somebody at a show or a performance or whatever, do you want me to hand out your flyers for you? It sounds so simple, right? But you'd be surprised at, you know, somebody who's blind can't see who's in the room, somebody who has muscular issues or is disabled in some way where they can't, you know, reach out and get their stuff to people so that more people know about them. It's just a great way you can help. So just, I think that mindset is important. You know, oftentimes we're thinking about justice from the out in, and we have to think about justice from the in out. And that means, what do I need to help myself first? And if you can't do it, finding a team, devising a team that's going to help you be able to do it.
Thank you, Danie. I really do appreciate those last words, and even you bringing up the self-checkouts. That's so something to just have some awareness about, and something as appropriate and helpful as asking someone, can I help you hand this out? Thank you for those little reminders of how we can kind of show up and really take and really support our fellow artists that may have disabilities, with disabilities, excuse me.
Absolutely. You've got to be your own best friend and your own best advocate. But there are agencies out there like Liberty Resources and Disability Pride and social organizations on the social media platforms I was telling you about, TikTok, Twitter, that are there for you. And they're going to give you the backing power when you say, no, you know, I'm not going to go to Target for X, Y, and Z because they don't, you know, have accessible bathrooms or whatever.
Well, if anyone or if no one else has any more questions, I'm going to drop the Disability Pride link in the chat, and we already have Liberty Resources there as well. And also Danie's email is available in the chat as well. Also, please check out her website, check out her music. If you did enjoy her original tonight, please continue supporting her through streaming platforms. And I'm going to turn my camera. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Danie, so much for help leading this conversation and offering us these very helpful resources. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening for our final workshop of the winter series. Vision-driven artists will be off for the month of July and August, and we'll be back in September, starting our new series of our workshops. So please feel free to engage with the Facebook group for any updates, because we will be having some really great updates. I look forward to sharing with you all. But that is actually the end of our workshop for today. And this is recorded and will be on our YouTube. So if you would like to go back and revisit this conversation, to revisit any resources or knowledge that Danie has shared with us, you are more than welcome to via our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for